Lost Legacy Commander Alara Chen stood at the observation deck of the Earth diplomatic ship Resilient, watching as the massive Galactic Confederation hub grew larger in the view screen. The structure was breathtaking, a sprawling, artificial world composed of interlocking rings that housed representatives from over 200 spacefaring civilizations. Compared to the elegant curves and shimmer of the hub, the Resilient looked like a crude metal box, despite being Earth's most advanced vessel. Quite the sight, isn't it? Dr. Marcus Reed joined her at the viewport. As the mission's chief engineer, he had spent the 6-month journey analyzing the scant technical data they had on Confederation technology. "They're going to laugh at us, Marcus," Alara said quietly. "We developed warp travel just 15 years ago. Some of these species have been crossing the stars for millennia." Marcus nodded. "Maybe, but we deserve our place at the table. We got here on our own." The Resilient shuddered slightly as the hub's docking tractors took control, guiding the Earth vessel into its designated berth. Alara straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. As mission commander, she would be the face of humanity's first formal diplomatic contact with the Galactic Confederation. The reception committee waited in the vast docking bay. Representatives from 5 major Confederation species stood in a semicircle, their body language difficult to interpret. The tallest among them, a Tarivek with iridescent skin and 4 upper limbs, stepped forward as Alara led her team down the ramp. "Welcome to the Confederation Hub," the Tarivek's translation. Device rendered its complex vocalizations into English. "I am High Counselor Zevnar. We are interested to meet a species that has achieved rudimentary interstellar flight so quickly after discovering atomic energy." Alara recognized the condescension but maintained her diplomatic smile. "Thank you for welcoming us, High Counselor. I am Commander Alara Chen representing the United Earth Government. We're honored to be considered for observer status in the Confederation." Zevnar made a gesture that the translation software couldn't interpret. "Your vessel's design is distinctive. We haven't seen propulsion systems configured quite like yours in some time. Our engineers developed the warp drive independently," Alara replied. "We're proud of our achievement, though we recognize we have much to learn." Indeed, Zevnar's upper limbs made a rippling motion that several of the other aliens clearly found amusing. "Your warp field equations must be terribly inefficient. I'm surprised your ship didn't tear itself apart during transit." Marcus stiffened beside her, but Alara maintained her composure. "The Resilient has served us well. We would welcome any technical exchanges the Confederation is willing to share." "Of course," Zevnar said. "Guiding developing species is part of our mandate. Perhaps in a few centuries you'll advance enough to make meaningful contributions yourselves." The diplomatic meetings that followed over the next 3 days followed a similar pattern. Polite condescension mixed with barely concealed amusement at humanity's technological infancy. The Earth delegation was permitted to observe several technical briefings as a courtesy, where Confederation engineers displayed propulsion, energy, and communication systems far beyond Earth's capabilities. During one such briefing, Alara noticed Marcus growing increasingly agitated as the Tarivek engineer explained their warp field stabilization method. "Something wrong?" she whispered. "I've seen this before," he muttered, scribbling notes on his tablet. "Not exactly this, but I need to check something." That night, Alara found Marcus in his quarters, surrounded by holographic displays showing technical schematics. "Commander, you need to see this," he said, his voice tinged with disbelief. "These are theoretical warp field equations developed by Dr. Mirai Tanaka in 2089. Almost 50 years before we successfully built our first warp drive." Alara studied the equations. "They look similar to what the Tarivek showed us today." "Not similar. Foundational." Marcus pulled up another display. "The Confederation's advanced field manipulation methodology is built on the exact same mathematical principles. They've refined it, added layers of complexity. But the core approach, Tanaka's breakthrough insight about subspace dimensional folding, it's identical." "That could be coincidence," Alara said carefully. "Parallel development happens." I thought so too. So I started comparing other systems. Marcus flicked through more schematics. Their quantum communication networks? Based on theoretical work by Abdul Rahman in 2105. Their gravitic shield modulators? Liu Calvert principles from 2134. Over and over I'm finding Earth theoretical work from the late 21st and early 22nd centuries embedded in their advanced technology. Ilara frowned. Are you suggesting they stole our research? How would they even access it? I don't know, Marcus admitted. But there's more. Most of these theories were abandoned on Earth, deemed impractical or replaced by different approaches. Why would advanced aliens build their technology on our discarded concepts unless they worked better than we thought? Ilara finished. Over the next 2 days, while maintaining the diplomatic schedule, Ilara authorized Marcus to dig deeper. He established a secure connection to Earth's historical archives, searching for connections. On the evening before the final summit, where Earth's observer status would be decided, Marcus called Ilara to the ship's secure communication room. I found something, he said, his face pale. Something that changes everything. He displayed an ancient document, its text barely legible. This was buried in a historical database of pre-collapse literature. It's a fragment from 21999, just before the global technological disruption that set humanity back centuries. Ilara read the faded text. Project Ascension's warp prototypes have achieved stable transit to Proxima Centauri. The dimensional resonance drive performs beyond expectations, but Director Amari warns of cascading field instabilities when scaled beyond current parameters. Council vote 7-3 in favor of technological sequestration until safer alternatives can be developed. All research to be secured in Facility Omega. Historical records to be sanitized. Humanity must develop space travel again, naturally and safely. God, Ilara whispered. We had warp technology 1,000 years ago and deliberately abandoned it? Marcus nodded grimly. There's more. I cross-referenced with archaeological databases. 3 decades ago, an expedition in Antarctica uncovered a sealed facility containing technology far beyond 22nd century standards. The findings were classified, but the summary mentioned dimensional transit equipment and non-terrestrial materials. So our ancestors achieved interstellar travel, encountered something concerning, and deliberately erased their achievements. From history, Ilara said slowly. And now alien civilizations are using technology based on our 1,000-year-old concepts. Technology our ancestors considered dangerous enough to abandon, Marcus added. The question is, do the Tarivek and the others know where their technology really came from? And do they understand the risks our ancestors identified? Ilara stared at the ancient text, her mind racing. We need to get access to that Antarctic facility's data. And I think we need to change our approach for tomorrow's summit. She tapped her communication badge. Bridge, send an encrypted priority message to Earth Central. Authorization Chen Alpha 73. We need everything they have on Antarctic. Facility Omega, and we need it before the summit tomorrow. The response came 3 hours later. A massive encrypted data package that Marcus immediately began processing. As the artificial day cycle began on the hub, Ilara gathered her team for a final briefing. Today we're not going in as supplicants, she told the surprised delegation. We're going in with the truth, and if I'm right, the Confederation needs us far more than we need them. The grand meeting chamber of the Confederation Council was a vast amphitheater, with representatives from dozens of species seated in tiered sections. The Earth delegation was positioned at the speaker's platform, ready to make their final presentation requesting observer status. As High Counselor Zevnar called the session to order, Ilara stepped forward, her heart pounding but her resolve firm. What she was about to reveal would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy, and perhaps save countless lives across the stars. Esteemed members of the Galactic Confederation, she began, her voice steady. Before you vote on Earth's observer status, there's something you need to know about your technology and about humanity's forgotten past. Ancient inheritance. The council chamber erupted in murmurs as Ilara's words registered. High Counselor Zevnar raised his upper limbs for silence. "Commander Chen, this is highly irregular," he said, his translator unable to fully mask the annoyance in his tone. "Your delegation is here to petition for observer status, not to make claims about our technology." "With respect, High Counselor," Ilara replied, "what I'm about to share changes the nature of our relationship entirely." She activated the holographic display, showing comparative schematics of Confederation warp drive systems alongside Earth theoretical designs from the 22nd century. "For 3 days, representatives of your esteemed body have treated humanity as technological infants," she continued. "Yet your most advanced systems are built on principles developed by human scientists over 1,000 years ago." The chamber erupted again, this time with sounds that needed no translation: shock, disbelief, and in some cases, outrage. "These allegations are absurd," a Mektari representative shouted. "Our civilization has been spacefaring for 12 millennia, and yet," Ilara countered, "your dimensional resonance drives use the exact mathematical approach developed by Dr. Mirai Tanaka in 2089. Your quantum communication systems employ Raman field theory from 2105. This isn't convergent evolution. The fingerprints of human innovation are unmistakable." Zevnar studied the schematics, his posture shifting subtly. "Even if there are similarities, how do you explain human technology appearing across the galaxy 1,000 years before? Your species supposedly achieved warp travel?" This was the moment Ilara had prepared for. She nodded to Marcus, who activated a new display, the complete data recovered from Antarctic Facility Omega. "Because 1,000 years ago, humanity didn't just theorize interstellar travel, we achieved it." The display showed images of an excavated facility deep beneath the Antarctic ice, a vast complex filled with technology that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. At its center stood a sleek vessel, clearly designed for space travel, bearing the faded insignia of the United Earth Space Initiative. In the late 22nd century, Earth developed what they called the dimensional resonance drive, a method of folding space using principles that your civilizations employ today. They built ships, established colonies in nearby star systems, and encountered other species. Ilara paused, letting the revelation sink in. But they discovered something critical, a fundamental flaw in the drive's design. When scaled beyond certain parameters or used in specific configurations, it created cascading instabilities in the fabric of spacetime itself. The display shifted to show ancient records, reports of a catastrophic event at a human colony called New Ganymede. After losing an entire colony to what they described as dimensional collapse, our ancestors made an unprecedented decision. Rather than risk further catastrophes that could threaten the galaxy, they deliberately abandoned their advanced technology, sealed it away, and erased it from history. They chose to let humanity develop space travel again, naturally and safely. The chamber had fallen completely silent. Even Zevnar seemed frozen in place. "We found evidence of this forgotten history just hours ago," Ilara continued. "But more importantly, we found their warnings about the technology you're currently using across thousands of worlds." One of the Mektari counselors leaned forward. "If what you say is true, why haven't we experienced these catastrophic failures in our millennia of using similar technology?" Marcus stepped forward to answer. "The ancient records suggest the instabilities manifest only under specific conditions, when the drives are scaled beyond certain thresholds or used in particular configurations. Based on what we've observed of your ships, you've modified the original designs in ways that may have inadvertently mitigated some risks. But not all of them," Ilara added grimly. "Your largest vessels and stations are approaching the scale, where our ancestors predicted dimensional collapse would become inevitable, and if our analysis is correct, the recent unexplained disappearance of the Tarivek science station in the Cygnus sector wasn't an accident or attack. It was the beginning of exactly what our ancestors feared." The council chamber erupted in alarmed conversations. Zevnar conferred urgently with his aides before raising all 4 limbs for silence. "These are extraordinary claims, Commander Chen," he said, his tone noticeably less condescending. What evidence can you provide beyond these historical records? Something better than evidence, Alara replied. A solution. With a nod to her, Team 2 technicians wheeled in a sealed container that had been transported from Earth overnight on an emergency shuttle. This is functional technology recovered from Facility Omega, a dimensional stabilization matrix designed specifically to prevent the cascading failures our ancestors identified. It was their last project before they shut everything down, meant to safely decommission their interstellar network. And you believe this ancient human device can address potential instabilities in our modern systems? Zevnar asked, a mix of skepticism and hope in his voice. We do. More importantly, the comprehensive data from Facility Omega includes the complete theoretical framework our ancestors developed, including their understanding of the risks and how to mitigate them. Knowledge that appears to have been lost as their technology spread across the stars. A ripple of conversation passed through the council. Alara could see the calculus happening. Denial would save face but potentially leave their civilization vulnerable to a catastrophic threat. Acceptance meant acknowledging their technological foundation wasn't entirely their own, but could save countless lives. Zevnar finally spoke. Commander Chen, the Council will need to verify these claims independently. Of course, Alara agreed. We're prepared to share all our findings and work cooperatively with your scientists. But there's one more thing you should know. She activated a final display, showing real-time sensor readings from a Confederation outpost near Tau Ceti. Based on the warning signs identified in our ancestors' research, this colony is showing early indicators of dimensional instability. We estimate no more than 2 weeks before cascade failure begins. If you want proof of our claims, I suggest we start there. What followed was a flurry of activity unlike anything the normally deliberate Confederation had seen in centuries. A joint mission was hastily assembled. The Resilient, alongside 3 Confederation vessels carrying the ancient stabilization matrix to the Tau Ceti colony. Upon arrival, the colony's power grid was already experiencing unexplainable fluctuations. Strange spatial distortions appeared and disappeared around its main power facility. Scans confirmed what the ancient human records had predicted. The dimensional boundary was thinning, creating micro-fissures in reality itself. In the power center, Marcus worked feverishly alongside Tarivek and Mektari engineers, adapting the ancient human stabilization matrix to interface with the colony's systems. The principles are the same, he explained as they worked. But your adaptations have altered the field harmonics. We need to recalibrate the stabilizer to account for the differences. Alara observed from a monitoring station, communicating with the ships in orbit. How much time do we have? Minutes, not hours, a Tarivek engineer replied, its professional confidence replaced by genuine fear. The cascade is accelerating. As the power center began to shake, with equipment shorting out around them, Marcus made a final adjustment to the stabilizer. Now! He shouted. The ancient device hummed to life, projecting a field that rippled outward through the facility. For a terrifying moment, the dimensional distortions seemed to intensify. Then gradually they began to subside. The unstable reactions within the colony's power core rebalanced, the dangerous resonance patterns dampened by the 1,000-year-old human technology. 3 days later, back at the Confederation hub, a very different council session convened. Earth wasn't seeking observer status any longer. Instead, a historic cooperative agreement was being formalized. The Galactic Confederation acknowledges humanity's foundational contributions to our interstellar technology, Zevnar announced, formally. Earth will be granted full member status with a primary mandate to lead the Dimensional Safety Initiative across all Confederation worlds. After the ceremony, Zevnar approached Alara privately. I must ask, Commander, why did your ancestors not simply destroy their technology, if they believed it so dangerous? Why preserve it at all? Alara smiled. The record suggests they believed humanity would eventually rediscover interstellar travel, one way or another. They wanted to ensure that when we did, we'd have access to their hard-won wisdom about its dangers. They couldn't have predicted their technology would spread across the galaxy through other species. Zevnar observed. No, Alara agreed. But perhaps that's why we found the facility when we did, just as the risks they foresaw were beginning to manifest across your worlds. As the Resilient prepared to return to Earth, now carrying Confederation representatives who would help establish the new safety initiative, Alara stood at the observation deck once more, watching the magnificent hub. They're not laughing anymore, Marcus commented as he joined her. No, Alara replied. But neither are we. Our ancestors made an incredible sacrifice, giving up the stars to protect the future. Now we have the chance to honor that sacrifice by helping the galaxy use their legacy safely. In the centuries that followed, humanity took its place among the stars not as newcomers, but as inheritors of a profound legacy. The Dimensional Safety Initiative gradually retrofitted technology across thousands of worlds, preventing the catastrophe Earth's ancestors had foreseen. And in time, human and alien scientists working together developed new approaches to interstellar travel, safer, more stable methods that fulfilled the hopes of those ancient humans who had chosen to wait rather than risk the galaxy's future. The technology that had once been mocked as primitive became recognized for what it truly was. Not the first awkward steps of a young species, but the careful, responsible return of one that had learned painful wisdom from its forgotten past.